Europe is turning on itself. Britain and France signaled troop deployments into Ukraine after a ceasefire, triggering panic across Central Europe and reopening nuclear escalation fears. What was once a proxy war is now splitting the European Union into hostile political camps, with sovereignty rebels openly defying Brussels, and NATO's authority facing visible cracks. Hungary explodes first. Foreign Minister Peter Szijjarto warns that Europe's nuclear powers stepping into Ukraine means the continent itself is entering the war. He accuses Brussels of losing all common sense and treating war like a game, while real consequences spiral toward catastrophe.
In Brussels, common sense has been completely lost. Europe's political leaders, the war fanaticism has taken over. Last weekend, an agreement was made public in Paris. According to this, Europe's two nuclear powers decided to send troops to Ukraine. This practically means that Europe's nuclear powers have begun to engage in the war, and their goal, let it be clear to us, is for the flames of war to engulf the whole of Europe. And the trouble is, my dear friends, that from this point on, this is no longer Fortnite, but the real world itself. And we must also see that Brussels' war policy is putting Hungary in the greatest danger.
Budapest escalates the accusation further, claiming Brussels and Kiev are actively trying to remove Viktor Orban's government for blocking war plans. Hungary frames this as political warfare inside the European Union, turning allies into internal adversaries.
And in Ukraine, the state policy is harshly anti-Hungarian. Brussels is ready to drag Hungary into the war plan for Kiev. But there is only one obstacle to the implementation of this plan. And the only obstacle is Viktor Orban's sovereign national government. And now in Brussels and Kiev, they are moving heaven and earth to remove this obstacle.
Slovakia joins the rebellion. Prime Minister Robert Fico declares Europe weaker, more divided, and more helpless than ever before, warning that the European Union risks becoming strategically irrelevant while damaging its own economy through prolonged confrontation and sanctions.
The EU has never been so threatened. It has never been so weakened. Europe has never been so helpless. Europe has never been so divided. Europe has never used a double standard as it does now, as it is now, and we have to navigate in this space. We will not have time for petty squabbles with the opposition, but we will focus on topics that are vitally important for Slovakia.
Poland pulls in the opposite direction. Prime Minister Donald Tusk doubles down on America and NATO as Europe's only security anchor, even as he admits deep concern over President Trump's behavior and the Greenland confrontation. Poland positions itself as the alliance's loyal guardian, while the alliance itself shows growing fractures.
Anything that weakens transatlantic solidarity or NATO solidarity carries certain risks. That is obvious. Poland and I personally try to be very specific about this, also for the sake of our security. Poland is a country that is probably trying its hardest to maintain, despite various circumstances, the strongest possible American-European and transatlantic ties, because that is how we define the security of both Poland and the entire continent. There is no need to pretend to be a fan of all of President Trump's decisions. I am not a fan of many of the actions, words, and behaviors of the current American administration, but it does not change my belief that the United States, Europe, NATO, and the Atlantic Bond are the only chance for the survival of our world.
The fault lines are now unmistakable. Sovereignty rebels challenge Brussels, nuclear escalation, fears rise, NATO unity strains under political contradictions, and Europe's leadership pulls in opposing directions. This is no longer a unified bloc, confronting external threats. This is a continent struggling with its own internal power war, raising the question, is Europe headed toward a political civil war?